Hello guys, welcome to Coding Pub. This is Arul. When we use multiple types of databases in our system, we will be using multiple types of tools to manage them. Today we are going to see how we can manage multiple type of databases using a single tool. And the tool we are going to use today is 100% free and a open source tool which can be used without any restrictions. Before we get into the video, please click the subscribe button below and the bell icon next to it to get notified about my future videos. Since you've done that, let's get started. Today we are going to see about a tool named Beekeeper Studio. We are going to see how we can install this tool in our system and how we can use this tool to manage multiple type of databases. To learn more about this tool, head over to the website beekeeperstudio.io. In this website, it is clearly mentioned that it is an open source SQL editor and a database manager. This tool was built using Vue.js, and this tool is available for Windows, Linux and Mac. For installing this tool in Windows and Mac, you will be able to download the installation files from this website itself. And for Linux, you will be able to see the installation instructions in this website. This tool was built using a framework named Vue.js by two cool developers, Matthew Rathbone and Gregory Gordon. You might get some questions about the security of this tool as this is a third party one. If you have questions such as what are the data they are collecting about your usage and how secure is my data and whether we can trust this tool with our database connections and our data, head over to the documentation website for this tool. There they have clearly explained every questions you might get about the security. Head over to the website docs.beekeeperstudio.io. Once the page is loaded, scroll down to the FAQ section. There they have clearly explained about the data privacy in this tool. They do not collect any information about the database connections we use, or they don't even get notified when we install or uninstall this tool. And they have also clearly mentioned that this is 100% free and an open source tool, and they do not make any money from this tool, and so there is no need for them to collect any information regarding your usage. So I think this answers your questions about the security concerns you might have over using this tool. If you have more questions about the source code of this tool, the source code is hosted as an open source repository in GitHub. You will be able to open the GitHub repository from the tool's official website itself. In the repository, you will be able to see the whole code base for this tool, and if you have any questions or security concerns, you can download the repository to your system and go through the whole code base to make sure that it is a reliable tool and you will be able to use this tool without any security concerns. So now let's see how we can install this tool in an Ubuntu system. The installation method might vary based on the operating system you're using, but the usage of the tool should be similar across the operating systems we use. Now we are going to install this tool in the operating system Ubuntu 20.04. For that, let's open the Ubuntu terminal, and in the terminal type the command sudo snap install beekeeper studio and press enter, and if prompted, enter your system password also. Like with every installation, the installation time will depend on the speed of your internet connection, and please make sure that you have an active internet connection for the installation to proceed. While the tool is getting installed, let's see what are the databases we are using in this system. I'm using multiple databases in this system, and let's see what are they. Let's first connect with the SQLite database using the command SQLite3 followed by the path of the SQLite database, and let's hit enter. Now we are connected to the SQLite database. If I type the command .tables here, you will be able to see this database has a number of tables. Next, let's connect to a Postgres database using the command psql-u postgres-h localhost. And after this, I'm entering my PostgreSQL password and I'm typing the command \l. Here also we see that we have a number of databases. Let's now connect to a MySQL server. I'm typing the command mysql-u root-p, and after that I'm entering my MySQL password. Once connected, I'm entering the command show databases. Here also you can see we have a number of databases. We are going to create all these connections in the Beekeeper Studio tool and see a demo on how we can connect to each of the database and how we can explore and modify the data in each of these databases. Now let's see whether the installation is complete. As we can see, Beekeeper Studio 1.7.4 has been successfully installed on our system. To open the application on your Ubuntu system, open the Ubuntu dash menu by clicking on the icon in the left side bottom corner of your screen or by hitting the Windows icon on your keyboard. If the Beekeeper Studio application is not in the list, just type the name Beekeeper Studio in the search field and you should be able to see the application installed on your system. Once you see the application, just click on it and the application should start opening. Since this is the first time we are opening the application, it might take a few seconds to load, so please wait till the application is open. As you can see, the application is opened successfully. In the left side top corner, there is a quick connect button which can be used to create a new database connection, and there are saved and recent connection sections which will list the connections we are using. Since this is the first time we are opening this, they are empty. And in the quick connect section, if I click on the connection type, you will be able to see numerous options like MySQL, MariaDB, Postgres, SQLite, SQL Server, Amazon Redshift, and CockroachDB. You will be able to use this tool to connect with all these type of databases. Let's now create a SQLite connection in this tool. Once you connect, select the SQLite option, click the choose file button and navigate to the path where your database file is stored and open the database file. Once you open the database file, just click on the test button to make sure that you have selected the right database file. If the right database file is selected, you will be seeing the connection looks good message, and if it is a wrong file, you will be seeing an error message. If you want to save this database connection, just type a name for the database connection and you will be able to connect to this database without saving it also. And if you want to use it frequently, you can save it. Just type a name. I'm naming this as Chinook, and you can also select a color for identification purposes. Selecting a color is optional. I'm selecting a color and clicking on the save button. As you can see, our SQLite connection has been created successfully. Now let's connect our Postgres database and MySQL database also to this one. I'm clicking on the quick connect option again. Now I'm selecting MySQL and I'm entering my username for my MySQL user, followed by the password. and the default database will be MySQL. That is the usual one. And once you enter the information, you can click on the test button to test the connection, and if it looks good, just enter a name. I'm entering local MySQL and I'm selecting a color and click on the save button. Now the connection is created. Now let's create the Postgres connection. In the connection type, I'm selecting Postgres. I'm entering the username and the password, and the default database will be Postgres. Let's now change the username. Let's now try giving a wrong username and try testing the connection. I have given Postgres 123 and click on the test button. As you can see, I am getting an error message, error establishing a connection. And below you will be able to see password authentication fail for user Postgres 123, so that you will be able to know what exactly the problem here is. I'm changing it back to the correct username. So now it should work fine. As you can see, we are getting the connection looks good message. So far we have connected database connections using the local databases installed on this system only, but you will be able to create connections with remote databases also. Please make sure that you have the correct host URL, username, password, and the default database name, and you will be able to create remote database connections also. Now let's give this database connection a name and save it. I am giving this connection a name as local PG, and I am selecting a color and clicking on the save button. As you can see, under the saved connections tab, we are seeing the database connections we have created. The SQLite, MySQL, and Postgres connections are available here. To connect with any of this database connection, you just need to double click on the name. Let's try connecting with the Postgres database. As you can see, we are now connected with the Postgres server. If you click on the drop down menu in the left side top corner, you should be able to see the list of databases available in this Postgres server, and you will be able to select any database here. And once you select a database, the list of tables available in the database will be listed. As you can see, the database we have selected has 4 tables, and if you click on a table name, you will be able to view the detailed structure of the table, like what are the fields available in the table and the field type and the maximum length allowed for each of the fields. This way, you will be able to understand the structure of the whole database very easily. And against each table name, you will be able to see 2 options. The first option can be used to view the data in the particular table, and the second option can be used to pin the table to the top of the list. If you are using a few tables frequently in this database connection, you will be able to pin those tables to the top of the list, so that every time you connect to this particular database, these tables are easily available for your access. And if you want to search for a particular table, you will be able to search for the table using the search field available at the top. As you can see, we will be able to filter the tables just by typing their name. And if you want to view the data in a particular table, just click on the first option, which is open in a new tab, and this will open this table in a new tab. And as you can see, the data in this table are completely loaded in this particular tab, and you will be able to open multiple tables at a time, and each of them will be opened in a new tab. And based on the number of records in the table you are opening, it might take few seconds for them to process. You will be able to see the number of records in the table you have opened in the bottom left corner of this application. As you can see, this table has a total of 1000 records. And if we look at the header row of this table, you will be able to see the name of each of the columns available in this table, and you will be able to see the type for each of the field also. And in the first field you can notice a blue key, and it denotes that this column is the primary key of this table. And if we go to the last column, which is user ID, you will be able to see the greenish yellow key, and this represents that this column is a foreign key to the user table. As I mentioned before, this table has a total of 1000 records, but in this page you will be able to see only 100 records. That is because the total number of records has been paginated to 100 records per page, because if all the records are displayed on the same page, it will be hard for us to view. If you look at the bottom of the page, you will be able to see the page numbers, and by clicking on each of the page numbers, you will be able to see all the records. In previous page we saw 1 to 100, and in the second page we are seeing 101 to 200. Likewise, you will be able to navigate through all other pages and view all the records. As I said earlier, the user ID field here is a foreign key, and we have a cool option which can be used to view the related record for a foreign key field. If you hover over a foreign key field, you will be able to see an icon next to the foreign key ID, and if you click on the icon, you will be able to see the linked foreign key entry. For example, in our case, the user ID here is 32, and if we want to view the details of the user which is linked to the ID 32, just click on this view record in users icon, and you will be able to see the user details for the ID 32. This will be very helpful when you want to view details for a particular foreign key. If we want to edit any entries in the database table, that is also possible. Let's say that you see a wrong value in one of the fields and you want to edit and change it right away. What you need to do is just double click on the field you want to edit. So let's edit a field here. I am double clicking on a field. As you can see, the field becomes editable. You just need to replace the value with the one you want there. Let's try editing another field also. Once we have edited the fields, you can see that the fields are highlighted in green color. That is because the changes are not saved to the database yet. They are changed in the tool, but we need to commit them to the database. To do that, if you see in the right side bottom corner, there is a commit button. If you click on the commit button, these changes will be saved to the database. And if you click on the discard option, the changes we have made will be discarded. As you can also see that there is a number 2 in the commit button, which mentioned that we have made 2 changes in the database. Let's say that we want to modify one more field also. As you can see, we have a zip code and a user ID field here, and both zip code and user ID are integer fields. If we enter a wrong value in one of the fields, let's say that we are entering a character in the integer field, so this is a wrong one, and let's click on the commit button now. As you can see, the data were not saved to the database. That is because we have entered characters in one of the integer fields, so this data will not be saved to the database. To save the data, we need to enter right data in the field and do it. So I'm now discarding the modifications we have made. So let's modify one of the zip code field and enter a numerical value there, because this is an integer field, so it will accept only integers. So I have now entered the integer field and committed it. As you can see, the changes we made have been saved to the database now. This way you will be able to view the data and modify them right here in the application itself. Let's say that you want to filter the data by some conditions. That is also possible. If you look at the top row in the table data, you will be able to see there are some options to filter the data along with the search button. Let's say that we want to filter the table data which has user ID as 45. For that, we need to select the field user ID and the condition equals and type the value as 45 and click on the search button. As you can see, we are now seeing the rows only which have the user ID as 45, and we are now seeing 30 rows which match our search criteria. This way you will be able to filter the data we are seeing, and the option to apply multiple filters to our data is under development. This is what they have developed in their GitHub repository, and the option to create databases also from this application is under development. So we should be able to see those options in this application very soon. Let's say that you want to run a custom query on your table instead of using the filters available in this application. That is also possible. As you can see at the top of the tab bar, there are a lot of tabs available, and we will be able to open as many tabs as we want. If I click on the query one tab, it is available for us to run any query, and you will be able to open multiple tabs as well and run different queries on each of them. Let's try running a custom query on the purchase items table. Let's try filtering the purchase items which has price greater than 100 and less than 300. So I'm typing the query here. Select star from purchase items. As you can see, when I start type the table name, we will be able to see the autocomplete option. So that will also be helpful when we are dealing with tables. You can just select the table name from the autocomplete list, where price greater than 100 and price less than 300. You will be able to run this query either by clicking on the run button available in the right side corner, or you can just click Ctrl Enter and the query will run. As you can see, we are now seeing the result for the query we ran. The time taken to return the results depend on the number of rows available for the query we are running. This one has 70 records, and we have now got the results. Let's try running a different query now. I'm opening a new tab here. So let's now try to get the purchase items which has price greater than 500 and less than 1000. So I'm typing the query here. Select star from purchase items where price is greater than 500 and price less than 1000. Let's run the query now. As you can see, 139 rows have been returned for this query. If you want to format the query you have typed, that is also possible. Just right click on the query you have typed and select the format query option. As we can see, our query has been formatted properly, and the syntax highlighting for the query is also available in this application. That is also another benefit of using this. Let's say that you want to download the result of this query. You want to download this result as a CSV file or an Excel file. That option is also available. If you see in the right side bottom corner, there is a download button, and next to that there is a small arrow. If you click on the arrow, you can see that we have option to download this data as a CSV file, an Excel file, or in the JSON format. You will also be able to copy this data to your clipboard, but please don't do this when you are dealing with large number of data, because that might slow down your system. This option will be very helpful when you want to download a data from a remote database and use it for some other purposes. If you want to save a query which you will be running frequently, that is also possible. Let's see how to do that now. Next to the run button, you will be able to see a save option. Just click on that. Once you click on that, you need to enter a name for the query you want to save. In our case, let's type purchases 500 2000 and I'm clicking on the save button here. If you want to view the saved queries and if you want to run them again, you will be able to see them under the saved items by clicking on the star button in the left side menu. As you can see, we will be able to see the purchases 500 2000 which we have saved recently, and you will be able to run the saved queries anytime from this application, and this will be so helpful when you want to run this query frequently. And if you click on the clock icon below the saved items button, you will be able to see the history of queries we have run in this application. This will be helpful if you forgot to save a query and want to save it again, or you want to run a query again from the history. So we have now seen how to save a query and run it. Let's say that a query is taking a longer time when you run them and you want to cancel them. Let's see how to do that. I'm typing a query select PG sleep 60 and I'm running the query. As you can see, the query is still running, and if I click on the cancel button here, the execution of the query will be cancelled. So like this, you will be able to cancel any query in the middle if any query is taking much longer than expected. Now we have seen how to manage our databases, how to view the tables and the data in them, how to edit them, how we can run custom queries and save them, and how to download the data. And once we are done with the database connection, and if you want to disconnect from this database connection, just click on the connection name in the bottom left corner and you will be able to see the disconnect option. Once you select disconnect, the connection with the database server will be closed. Now we have seen all these operations on a Postgres database, but it will be similar irrespective of the database type you are using, I assume. So let's now connect with the SQLite database. As you can see, we are seeing the list of tables available in this SQLite database. You will be able to view the data for any of the tables. You can run your custom queries and filters on them, and you will be able to download the data for any of the databases you are using. And we are doing all this using a single application in spite of using different tool for a different database type. And one more option we are having on this application is we have two themes available. We will be able to use this application with the dark mode, or you can change it to light theme as well. You just need to go to the view menu and select theme, and under that you just need to select light. In this video, we have learned how we can manage multiple type of databases using a single application, and how we can view the data, filter them and run custom queries on the tables, and how to download the data using the application. I hope that video was helpful to you. If you find this video helpful, please click the like button below, and please click the subscribe button and the bell icon next to it to get notified about my future videos. Let's learn more in one of our future videos in Coding Pub. Till then, this is Arul signing off. Stay safe. Thank you.